You've arrived at CozySideAudio, where dreams begin with a story. Whether you're studying, journaling, or just chilling, this one's for you. If you vibe with this kind of content, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more.
CozySideAudio presents The Life of Mochi, Chapter 1, January's. The radiator sings again this morning, a low, moody hum, like the world itself sighing into wakefulness. I've come to expect it. The old metal creature sputtering in the corner, exhaling warmth with the dignity of a tired dragon. My human calls it temperamental. I call it loyal. It's the first to rise in this household and the last to sleep, a proper companion, if a bit too loud. I stretch on the windowsill, one paw extended into the thin slice of pale winter sun. The world outside is glazed with frost, every roof dusted with what looks like powdered sugar. I taste the air through the glass. It smells of quiet things. Old snow, stale coffee, unfinished plans. My name is Mochi. Yes, like the sweet. No, I am not sweet. I am round though. Roundness comes naturally when one's talents include stillness, waiting, and being adored. The human June is awake, or rather waking. I can hear the shuffle of slippers across the floorboards. The kettle clicks, sighs, and begins its morning song. The scent of green tea rises, faintly floral. John always starts the day with the tea, and I always start the day by pretending I'm not interested in the tea, then watching until they inevitably pour a little cool water into my bowl, so I won't feel left out. I drink it, of course. Dignity is a flexible thing. It's January, apparently. I don't track such things personally. My internal calendar consists of naps and meal times, but John has been saying it a lot lately. January, new year, new start. They said it yesterday too, standing in front of a notebook, writing with the fierce expression humans get when they think they're in charge of something. Resolutions, they called them. I remember the list vividly, because I was there, specifically lying across it. It's my duty to supervise any new paper products that enter the household. The list went like this as best I could read through my tail. Draw every day. Go outside more. Eat fewer noodles. Be kinder to myself. Don't procrastinate. Try new things. Don't give up so easily. There were several more after that, but I fell asleep before finishing. When I woke, my fur was covered in ink smudges. A small price for enlightenment. Humans are always listing things. Things they'll do, things they'll stop doing, things they wish they could stop wishing. I find it fascinating. Cats, by contrast, never plan. We simply are. The radiator hums, the sunlight moves, the bowl refills, the bed folds open. It's enough. June's resolutions seem ambitious. Draw every day, especially. I've watched them go weeks without touching a pencil, staring at the blank screen of the tablet, as if it's a sleeping beast that might bite. Their work, illustrations mostly, used to bring color into the room. Lately though, it's all grey. Sketches abandoned halfway. Papers stacked on the desk like a tower of quiet apologies. Still, they try. That's something. I've learned that trying is a kind of purring for humans. It means they still want to be alive. The radiator wheezes. June mutters a greeting to me as they shuffle past. Morning, Mochi. Their voice sounds soft around the edges, half dreaming still. I reply with a slow blink, the ancient language of affection. They don't see it, but that's all right. Humans rarely notice the first offering of the day. Breakfast arrives. Kibble, salmon-flavored, slightly stale. I eat half, save the rest for later. Moderation, unlike most feline virtues, comes with age. John, meanwhile, assembles their own meal. Oatmeal with banana slices, the same way they've done for months. There's comfort in repetition. Even I can appreciate that. While they eat, I begin my rounds. First, inspect the window. A pair of pigeons have taken residence on the ledge again, fat and self-satisfied. I watch them for several minutes, tail twitching in disapproval. They coo like gossiping aunties. I coo back just once, a sharp guttural note that sends them fluttering off. Victory achieved before noon. I note it mentally in my own list of resolutions, which so far reads, maintain window dominance, encourage sunlight attendance, oversee human productivity, nap. John clears the table and settles at the desk, stylus in hand. They look determined today. I hop up beside the keyboard just close enough to be inconvenient. The tablet screen glows white, and I can feel the tension in June's shoulders like a humming wire. The cursor hovers over emptiness. Nothing happens. Minutes pass, then a sigh, then another. I lick my paw, slow and deliberate. The sound fills the silence like small applause. Finally a line appears, a curve, a shape. June's hand begins to move with purpose. The air in the room changes, less brittle now, more alive. I settle into loaf position, watching. Sometimes the best thing to do for a struggling artist is simply be seen, existing gracefully. After an hour, June leans back, rubbing their eyes. "Your good luck, Mochi," they murmur. I knew that already, but it's nice to hear it said aloud. Afternoon arrives the way all afternoons do, quietly, with a beam of light that lands precisely where I intended to nap. The radiator falls silent, resting from its morning labor. June works until the shadows lengthen, then stands to stretch. Papers scattered to the floor. I leap down to inspect them. Portraits mostly. Soft pencil lines of faces I don't recognize. One of them looks faintly like June, though with brighter eyes. They crouch beside me, collecting the sketches. "I think I'm getting worse," they mutter. I rub against their knee. They laugh, just a little. "You disagree, huh?" "Of course I do. Art isn't about being good. It's about being stubborn. Cats understand this instinctively. Have you ever seen a cat give up on a door handle? Never. We persist until something yields. Door, drawer, or destiny." Jun puts on a coat and leaves for a while. Errands, they say. I don't accompany. The world beyond the apartment is too large, too loud. Besides, I have duties here. The plants need scolding, the fern especially, which droops dramatically every third day. I bat at its leaves, urging it to live. Everything in this home needs gentle correction, from the radiator to the human. Without me, the whole system would collapse. By the time June returns, it's dark outside. They carry groceries, a loaf of bread sticking out of the paper bag. I inspect it for quality assurance. Acceptable. They make soup, miso with tofu cubes that steam the windows. The apartment smells like warmth. They eat in silence, scrolling through their phone between bites. The blue light paints their face pale. I sit on the counter, watching. "Maybe I'll sign up for that online art thing," they murmur to no one. I tilt my head, encouragingly, I think. They look at me and smile. "You'd like that, huh? More drawings of you." I wouldn't mind, though I've noticed all their mochi drawings make me look smaller than I am. Pure slander. Later, as the night settles in, I claim my rightful spot on the bed. John's bed, technically, but I allow them space on one edge. The blankets smell faintly of paint, soap, and something like sadness that's been washed several times but never fully gone. Humans carry their feelings in fabric. Cats, fortunately, that do not. June reads for a while, the soft light making their eyes gleam. I watch from the foot of the bed, pretending to sleep. I can tell when they start drifting. Breathing slows, hand stills. I climb up carefully, curl beside their side, and rest my chin against their arm. Their skin is warm. Beneath it, a pulse ticks steady as the radiator. I listen. They mumble something in their sleep. My ears twitch. The words sorry, maybe. Or soon. Hard to tell. I close my eyes, deciding it doesn't matter. Both are words humans use when they're lost. Sometime around midnight, I wake to find Jin sitting at the desk again. The room glows blue. From the monitor, they're scrolling through other artists' work, comparing, frowning. I leap down and pad over, hopping onto the desk with a decisive thud. The keyboard wobbles. "Mochi, not now." I stare. They sigh. "Fine, you can stay." I sit, curling my tail neatly. The blue light reflects in my eyes. John catches the glint and smiles weakly. "You're judging me, aren't you?" I blink once, slowly. "Yeah," they say, "I know." They close the laptop after a while and just sit there, head in hands. The silence grows heavy. I move closer, press my forehead against their knuckles. They freeze, then chuckle softly. You always know when to show up. Of course I do. It's one of my better tricks. June strokes my fur, and I can feel the tension drain from them with every pass. They whisper, I'll be okay this year, promise. I don't understand the promise, but I feel the intent. The small ember of hope that humans keep tucked behind their ribs, fragile and bright. I purr, loud enough to make it real. Morning again, the radiator hums. Tea brews, life resets. January moves in its slow circle, days like beads on a string. June's resolutions remain taped to the fridge, curling at the corners. Some already broken, I suspect. The noodle rule didn't last long. Still, I admire the list. It means John believes in forward motion. That's a kind of faith. I've started keeping my own list in my mind, though it's less about doing and more about noticing. The sound of John laughing through their nose when they read something silly. The way sunlight makes dust dance in midair. The peculiar triumph of fitting my entire body into the small box by the recycling bin. The smell of miso on cold nights. The hum of the radiator when the world is quiet. The tiny heartbeat I feel when I press my head against Jun's wrist. The truth that every morning is a chance to begin again. It's not much of a list, but it's real. One evening, toward the end of the month, something small but important happens. Jun sits at the desk, sketching lazily. The lines come easier tonight, flowing like thought instead of work. They draw me, of course. Mid-yawn, paw lifted. The likeness is questionable, but the energy feels right. Then they add something new, themselves beside me, both of us looking out the same window. They pause, then color the scene with soft yellows and blue-gray shadows. When they finish, they stare for a long time. Maybe this year won't be so bad, they whisper. I yawn, pretending not to hear. But I do. I hear everything. That night, June falls asleep smiling. The radiator sings, and I, loyal chronicler of this quiet kingdom, make my final note for the first month of the year. The human has hope again. Mission temporarily accomplished. Continue observation. Chapter 2. February. There's a certain sound February makes, not the dramatic kind, like thunder or rain. More of a hush, the kind that seeps under doors and sits beside you without asking. The world outside our window has turned to glass again, ice on the sidewalks, frost on the edges of the trees, even the cars down below wrapped in a thin silver shell. I press my nose against the window pane. It's cold enough to make my whiskers ache. Inside, everything is quiet except for the kettle's low murmur and the faint crackle of June's sweater when they shuffle across the carpet. Static season. Every time they touch me, my fur sparks like fireworks. I pretend to hate it, but secretly, I find it thrilling proof that we're made of the same strange electricity. Jun's resolutions are still taped to the fridge, though the edges have curled so much that the corners flap when the heater turns on. A few new doodles have joined them, messy hearts, doodles of teacups. One unfortunate drawing of me that makes my face look square. John insists it's stylized. I call it deformation. They've been keeping up with their art more lately. Not perfectly, but better. The desk has a pleasant clutter to it now. Pencils rolling under stacks of sketchbooks, smudges of charcoal on their fingers. There's life again in the way they work. It makes the apartment hum differently, as if the air's found a rhythm. Still, I can tell February is getting to them. Humans are fragile in cold months. They fold inwards like paper cranes, hoping spring will remember to come back. June hasn't gone out much this week. The excuse changes daily. Too icy, too tired, too much work, but I know the truth. The world beyond the front door has grown heavy again. When they stand by the window, mug in hand, their reflection looks lonely. They used to hum when they looked out there. Now they just stare, as if waiting for someone they forgot to name. I can't fix that exactly, but I can sit with it. This morning, I attempt to join June on the couch, but there's a blanket barricade. They've wrapped themselves in it like a human burrito. I leap up anyway, landing squarely on their stomach. A startled noise escapes them. Mochi? Followed by laughter. I take this as permission to settle. My paws knead the fabric, rhythmic and deliberate. Jun sighs. You're warm. Of course I am. Warmth is my defining feature. That and discernment. The TV hums quietly in the background, a cooking show, I think. Someone somewhere is flambeing something dramatic. Jun's eyes half close, unfocused. I rest my head on their arm, watching the light flicker across their face. I can feel the small tension in them easing, like the strings of a bow loosening. We stay like that for a long while, listening to the faint hiss of snow against the window. I start to purr. The sound fills the room like a low, gentle heartbeat. Sometimes that's all a day needs, one shared sound to make it whole. Later, John decides to paint. It's an event. They dig through the closet for their old watercolors, muttering to themselves, "Where did I put that stupid brush?" They find it eventually, bristles frayed but serviceable. They clear a space on the dining table, set down a cup of water, and begin. I sit nearby, regal observer of all creative endeavors. The paper blooms with color, blues first, then ochres, then something like the pale pink of sunrise. Jun paints the window view, the rooftops, the grey sky, the way light struggles through the clouds. But when they add a tiny silhouette to the windowsill, my tail swishes with pride. "That's you," they say. "You look philosophical." I glance at the painting. I look damp. Still, it's nice. The version of me on paper seems to belong to the world outside and inside at once. Maybe that's what Jan sees. When they look at me, something still enough to hold both. They take a photo when it's done, post it online somewhere, then sit staring at the screen. I watch their expression soften, eyes brightening when the first comments appear. I don't understand the words, but I know that smile. It's the kind that happens when humans remember they're visible. I rub my head against their knee. "Thanks," Jun murmurs. "You're my good luck charm." I yawn, modestly accepting the title. Evening comes early this month, the sun retreating by 5. The apartment feels smaller when the light disappears, as if the walls lean in to listen. Jun lights a candle vanilla and something woodsy, and the room glows golden. Shadows dance across the ceiling like lazy ghosts. I chase one briefly, then give up when I remember ghosts are immune to claws. Jun laughs. "You're weird." I agree silently. Most geniuses are. Dinner smells like curry. John hums while cooking, an old pop song I half recognize from January's playlist. There's a faint joy to it, a rhythm that makes the air brighter. I perch on the counter and supervise, pretending not to care that the chicken smells divine. I receive one piece anyway, small, warm, perfectly seasoned. My approval is absolute. After dinner, John curls on the couch with their tablet, sketching idly. I lie along the backrest, tail dangling like a metronome. Outside, snow falls thicker now, slow, patient flakes, each one surrendering without complaint. I find it calming. The world knows how to be still when it's cold. Jun glances up. "I should go out tomorrow," they say softly. I tilt my head. "To the park maybe, just for air." A pause, then quieter. "You'd hate it. Too much snow." Correct. I would in fact despise it, but I'm glad they're thinking of out there again. It's been weeks since that tone entered their voice, the one that sounds like the first crack of thawing ice. The next morning, they follow through. Boots, scarf, sketchbook and bag. I watch from the window as they step outside, breath fogging the air. The cold turns them pink around the nose. For a moment I think they'll retreat back upstairs, but they don't. They walk down the street, slow and deliberate, shoulders squared like someone daring the world to matter again. I stay on the windowsill, eyes fixed until they disappear. The apartment feels cavernous without their sounds. No kettle, no sighs, no typing. Just the faint hum of the heater and the slow tick of the clock. Hours pass. I nap, I patrol, I nap again. The silence starts to feel too large, so I rearrange a few objects. To make it smaller, a shoe dragged slightly out of place, a napkin artfully shredded, subtle reminders that I exist. A house without proof of cat is unnatural. When John finally returns, cheeks flushed from the wind, their eyes are bright. You would have hated it, they tell me, laughing. It was freezing, but look. They open the sketchbook. Inside are drawings of trees stripped bare, benches dusted with snow, a stranger feeding birds. The lines are simple, but alive. There's movement again. I forgot how good that feels, they whisper. I nuzzle their wrist in approval. The scent of cold clings to them, sharp, clean, hopeful, like the first breath after a long nap. That night, the blanket burrito makes its return. I crawl under it uninvited, pressing against June's ribs. They don't protest. The candles burn low. Only its faint perfume remains. I listen to the slow rhythm of June's breathing, their body finally at rest. Outside, the snow continues its quiet descent, building another layer between us and the world. Thanks, Mochi, they mumble, half asleep, for keeping me warm. I don't respond, not out loud anyway, but in my mind, the place where I keep my own almanac, I make a note. February. Warmth is a thing we build together. In the days that follow, June keeps painting. Small pieces, at first still lifes, color studies, then bolder ones. A watercolor of the sunrise over rooftops, a digital painting of a cup of tea, steam curling like a question mark, and one particularly flattering portrait of yours truly, lounging like a deity. I approve of this artistic direction. Visitors start to notice too. Friends comment online, leaving hearts and little encouraging words. June's posture shifts subtly each time, shoulders loosening, chin lifting. I can feel the house breathing with them, less tense, more alive. The air tastes warmer. Of course, not every day is like that. There are still grey mornings when John stays in bed too long, scrolling endlessly. On those days, I take drastic measures. A paw to the face works wonders. So does sitting directly on their phone. My interventions are firm but compassionate. Okay, I'm up. They groan, pushing me aside. Progress achieved. By mid-February, the snow begins to melt. Puddles form on the sidewalks, freezing again overnight. The city hums faintly through the open window buses. Laughter, a dog barking somewhere below. The scent of wet pavement drifts in. I sniff it, unimpressed but curious. Jun's mood fluctuates with the weather. One day bright, the next subdued. But I've learned to read the signs. The way they hum when something goes right. The way they sigh when they feel small. Humans are easy to love once you understand their patterns. They're just like radiators, sometimes loud, sometimes cold, always in need of a little maintenance. On Valentine's Day, John buys themselves flowers, a small bouquet of yellow tulips. They place them in a jar on the table, sunlight catching on the petals. They were on sale, they say, though their voice carries something softer than practicality. I sniff the blooms, acceptable, not edible, but acceptable. June smiles. They make it feel less empty, don't they? It's true. The apartment looks different with color in it. Even I feel brighter sin. Just watching the petals open, for the rest of the week, June paints them from different angles, chasing how the light moves through them. Each day, a slightly new hue appears on paper. I sit nearby, providing emotional stability. By the time the flowers wilt, the house smells faintly of paint and tea, not sadness, progress. At the month's end, a letter arrives. Paper, not digital, a rarity. John opens it slowly, eyes flicking across the lines. Their expression shifts. Surprise first, then disbelief, then a shy kind of joy. They sit down hard on the couch, blinking. It's from the magazine, they tell me, voice trembling with excitement. They want to feature one of my pieces, my winter sketches. I leap onto the armrest, peering at the letter. Black text, signatures, the smell of printer ink. None of it means much to me, but June's reaction does. Their hands are shaking not from cold this time, but from something bright and human and alive. They actually like my work. They whisper. They saw me. I headbutt their chin lightly. Yeah, they laugh. You saw me first. The room feels different after that lighter somehow, as if February itself exhaled. The radiator purrs contentedly. Outside, a patch of snow melts into the shape of a heart. I pretend not to notice. Symbolism is beneath me. That night, John opens a bottle of plum wine and pours a small splash into a saucer for me. Don't look at me like that, they tease. You're celebrating too. I sniff, decide against drinking, and instead pat the rim gently. The saucer rings like a bell. John laughs until tears gather in their eyes. Later, when the laughter fades and the night grows quiet, I curl at their feet. The candle's out. Only moonlight now, painting everything silver. June's breathing steadies into sleep. I stare at the ceiling and think about the sound of snow melting, the way color returns one shade at a time, and how a single person's hope can make a whole room warmer. My February entry writes itself in the invisible notebook behind my eyes. The human went outside again. The human painted again. The human laughed. Spring is on its way, even if it doesn't know it yet. And below that, a simple addendum. Mission ongoing. Chapter 3. March. The mornings come earlier now. Mochi notices because her sunbeam moves again. It used to spill across the couch like a faithful pet, but lately it's begun to wander, shifting higher, brighter, a traveler returning from a long journey. Mochi, in her infinite patience, follows it as one might follow gossip, silently, with strategic interest, pretending not to care. She stretches on the carpet, fur blooming with static, tail curling like punctuation at the end of a very smug sentence. The window is half open today, and March air sneaks in, half warm, half rude. It smells of thawing soil, city dust, and something distant she can't name. Her human, Kana, has taken to standing in that same spot every morning now, not for the sunbeam, she never competes for those, but to smoke out the chill with sighs. She holds a mug she rarely drinks from, staring down at the street 3 floors below. From Mochi's vantage point, beside a potted basil that's been both overwatered and underloved, Kana's expression looks soft and wrinkled around the edges. Not old, just tired in the places that dreams usually sit. Mochi yawns in solidarity. The routine has shifted. Mochi always notices these things before Kana does. Breakfast. Once punctual. 7:15. Tuna pate, small ceramic bowl with a blue rim, now appears inconsistently. Some mornings Kana forgets until the second alarm goes off. Mochi doesn't blame her. Alarms seem designed to cause chaos, but she does find it inefficient. After all, Mochi's stomach keeps better time than any clock. When Kana does remember, she offers a cheerful, "Good morning, Mochi," that sounds too wide around the edges, too forced to land properly. Mochi blinks once in polite acknowledgement and begins eating. Kana laughs, but it's quieter than before. Later, Kana disappears into her studio. The spare bedroom turned labyrinth of canvases, jars of murky water, and piles of forgotten inspiration. The smell of turpentine leaks into the hallway like an argument that refuses to end. Mochi, curious but respectful, sits at the doorway and observes. The paintings have changed too. Last month, they were explosions of color, sunsets and strangers and light. Now they're quieter, too much gray. Faces without eyes, trees without leaves. Mochi's tail flicks. She can't explain why it bothers her, only that it does. "Don't give me that look," Kana mutters one afternoon, without turning around. "It's called mood." Mochi blinks twice. It's not a look, she thinks, it's concern. March drips in through the windows, rain against glass, pigeons cooing like gossipers in the gutters. The world outside feels slippery, half awake, half waiting. Mochi keeps her sunbeam close, her routines closer. One afternoon, she discovers the heating vent in the hallway makes an excellent meditation site. The floor hums beneath her belly like a purring earth. Kana passes by with her sketchbook, muttering about deadlines and commissions, unaware that Mochi is performing a delicate ritual of balance and warmth. Mochi decides this is her new post, a cat must have order. Then comes the mouse. Not a real one. Kana's new sketchbook is filled with them. Cartoon mice with scarves, riding bicycles, playing violins. Mochi watches from her vent as Kana sketches, erases, redraws. Sometimes she hums, sometimes she curses. Once she drops her pencil and says, "I used to draw like this all the time, for fun." Mochi tilts her head. For fun? The phrase lands oddly in the room. Kana goes quiet after saying it, as if she stepped on a memory too fragile to move. Later that night, when Kana's asleep and the apartment hums with the sound of appliances dreaming, Mochi pads into the studio. The sketchbook lies open on the desk, half a mouse sketched in the margin, its tail looping like a question mark. Mochi places one paw on the page, feeling the slight texture of graphite beneath her pads. She doesn't know why she does it. Perhaps she's curious. Perhaps she's trying to leave proof that something here still breathes. When Kana wakes the next morning, she finds a faint paw print smudge across the corner of the page. "Well," she says softly, smiling for the first time in weeks, "guess you approve." Mochi pretends not to notice. She sits on the windowsill, grooming the back of her paw with delicate importance. But she does notice, and she approves of that smile very much. By mid-March, Kana starts painting mice. Not realistic ones, but storybook creatures. One wears a raincoat, another a tiny paper crown. Mochi observes the process from her usual post, occasionally flicking her tail to indicate critique. Kana has started narrating out loud again, a good sign. "In this one," Kana says one night, pointing at a sketch of a mouse peeking out from a teacup, "is the explorer. She thinks the world is enormous but kind." Mochi, sprawled across the radiator, thinks, "That's foolish but charming." Kana keeps talking, her voice warm and absent-minded, spilling into the quiet room like light through gauze. Mochi finds herself lulled by it, half asleep, eyes heavy, tail twitching. It's been weeks since Kana spoke this much. Mochi doesn't interrupt. March 17th, rain again. Kana leaves the apartment for the first time in a while. Grocery bag, umbrella, determined stride. Mochi waits by the door after she's gone, tail coiled neatly around her paws. The apartment feels wrong when empty. Too quiet, too balanced. She prowls through the rooms to keep the silence from settling, sniffs Kana's shoes, taps at a fallen brush handle, checks the window where the pigeons gossip. Everything is in place, but something in the air feels brittle. When Kana returns, damp and flushed, she brings something new, a little ceramic cat, from the thrift shop, chipped at one ear. She sits it on the windowsill beside Mochi and says, "For company." Mochi inspects the newcomer suspiciously. The ceramic cat stares back with unblinking eyes. She bets it once, gently. It wobbles. Acceptable. The first real sunlight of the season arrives on March 23rd. Mochi marks it in her private almanac. Day of abundant warmth, worth waking early for. She spends the entire morning chasing the beam, from floor to couch, to the top of the bookcase. Kana laughs and takes pictures. "Model behavior," she says. "I should paint you instead of mice." Mochi freezes mid-pose, feigning indifference. Obviously, she thinks, "You should." By evening, Kana is sketching her, loose, easy strokes. Mochi dozes while being immortalized. When Kana's done, she whispers, "There, perfect." The drawing isn't perfect, of course. No artist can capture the ineffable grace of a creature made entirely of fur and wisdom, but Mochi approves of the effort. And something about the drawing changes Kana's mood. She cleans the table, opens the window, orders new brushes. March hums quietly forward. There's a night near the end of the month when Kana can't sleep. Mochi feels it before she hears it. The rustle of sheets, the soft footsteps, the sound of water running in the sink. Mochi stretches, leaps down from the couch, and pads softly to the living room. Kana is sitting at the table, hair mussed, staring at a half-finished painting. The mice are there again, dancing under lamplight, all tiny smiles and bravery. "I don't know what I'm doing," Kana whispers, I used to be so sure. Mochi jumps onto the table, careful not to disturb the paints. She sits directly in front of Kana's hands, tail curling around her feet. Kana looks at her. What, you have advice? Mochi blinks once, then leans forward until her head rests against Kana's wrist. A silent, steady weight. Warm, certain. Kana exhales shakily. Okay, she murmurs. Okay. By morning, there's a new painting drying on the easel. Not mice this time. It's a window scene, the couch, the basil plant, a lazy cat stretched in sunlight. The air in the painting glows. Mochi studies it when Kana isn't looking. There's something in it she recognizes. Balance, quiet, small joy. March ends that way. Light in the window, paint drying. A truce between the human heart and the cat who watches it. Mochi adds the day to her mental ledger. March, the sunbeam agreement. Notes. Human resumed partial sunlight absorption and moderate laughter. Artistic productivity restored. Household stability improving. Recommend continued presence near window, daily observation of moods, and strategic deployment of purring. She stretches long and slow, curls into a warm circle, and closes her eyes. Outside, spring knocks softly at the glass. Chapter 4. April. April arrives without knocking, slipping in through cracks in the window, dripping down the gutters, making itself at home on the balcony rail. Mochi approves mostly. Rain means naps. Sun means naps. April means both, often on the same day. Kana, however, greets April like an old friend who owes her money. Already? She mutters that first morning, staring at the calendar, as though time itself has betrayed her. What happened to March? Mochi, from a sunbeam, considers this a rhetorical question. Humans have an odd relationship with time. They chase it, then mourn when it leaves. Cats, on the other hand, simply nap through it. The basil plant, once wilted, has been joined by a small army of new companions. Mint, rosemary, 2 succulents, and a defiant sprig of lavender that Kana insists will definitely grow this time. Mochi eyes them all suspiciously from her perch. They've taken her spot. The windowsill, once her private observation deck, is now crowded with clay pots and damp soil. The sunbeam still visits, but now it's fractured by leaves, patchy and unpredictable, a scandal. Mochi sits below, tail flicking, as Kana rearranges the pots. I'm making a little garden, Kana says, cheerful in that dangerous way humans get before something inevitably falls over. It'll brighten the place up, won't it? Mochi blinks. It will also, she notes privately, restrict lounging space and alter her nap-to-light ratio by at least 40%. This cannot stand. April 3rd. The window garden conspiracy begins. Mochi studies the enemy. The mint, arrogant and sprawling, takes up most of the center. The rosemary leans like a tower of green bristles, giving off a sharp smell that pricks her nose. The succulents, smug and quiet, simply exist, an infuriating quality in any rival. Kana, oblivious to the politics of the situation, continues watering them daily, humming under her breath. The watering can is shaped like a yellow bird. Mochi despises it. When Kana isn't looking, Mochi hops onto the sill to investigate. She sniffs the soil, then the leaves, then the ceramic pots themselves. Everything smells of earth and ambition. She bats a leaf. It trembles but doesn't fall. She bats again. The mint wobbles in defiance. Mochi narrows her eyes, a worthy adversary. That afternoon, Kana catches her mid-inspection. Mochi, no! Mochi freezes, paw raised dramatically above a pot. Kana rushes forward, waving her hands. You'll knock them over. Mochi lowers her paw with regal slowness, leaps down, and walks away without apology. She flicks her tail once, a gesture that says, I could have, but I didn't. You're welcome. Kana sighs. You're impossible. Mochi agrees, wholeheartedly. The weather turns fickle, rain one day, sun the next. Kana spends more time by the window now, sketching between mugs of tea. The mice have been replaced with plants in her drawings. Sprigs of rosemary, lavender buds, the curve of a watering can. She even sketches Mochi once or twice, though always in the background, as if the cat were merely part of the furniture. Mochi does not appreciate being relegated to background status. To reclaim dominance, she begins a series of calculated actions, sitting in the sunbeam at crucial moments, stretching elegantly across Kana's sketchbook, and occasionally meowing at the exact pitch that makes Kana laugh mid-sip, causing tea to slosh. This is not sabotage, this is balance. April 10th, the first casualty. Kana forgets to close the window before a sudden storm. The wind knocks over the rosemary pot. Soil scatters across the sill and floor. Mochi observes the chaos from her corner, eyes wide, tail swishing in slow satisfaction. When Kana rushes in, groaning, "Ugh, my poor rosemary," Mochi gives her most innocent blink. "I told you not to leave the window open," Kana mutters, though Mochi, of course, had said no such thing. Kana cleans up the mess, humming softly again. "You know, maybe you're right, Mochi. This was too crowded anyway." Mochi purrs. Justice is self-evident. But peace doesn't last long. Kana brings home more plants the next week, a tray of seedlings, a hanging ivy, even a little fern that smells like wet moss. "They were on sale," she explains, as if that justifies treason. The windowsill becomes a miniature forest. Sunlight filters through the leaves in dappled patches that move unpredictably. Mochi must now chase her warmth like prey, leaping from floor to chair to carpet as the light shifts. Her naps suffer terribly. Kana, meanwhile, seems lighter these days. She hums when she waters the plants, sings when she paints, even dances once while cleaning the brushes. Her laughter comes easier now, like it's remembering how. Mochi watches this with quiet curiosity. She doesn't mind Kana's happiness. It's preferable to the grey quiet of winter, but the cause is suspicious. The plants are helping her human. Mochi feels a twinge of territorial doubt. That's her job. April 15th. Mochi stages her first official act of diplomacy. She sits beside Kana at the window, pretending indifference while the human arranges the seedlings. Kana notices, smiles faintly, and says, "You're not jealous, are you?" Mochi blinks slowly. "Don't worry," Kana adds, gently nudging her pot aside. "You're still my favorite thing in this apartment." That is correct, Mochi thinks, though the statement should not require verbal confirmation. Kana scratches under her chin. "You've been good lately. I think the plants are good for both of us." Mochi considers this. Perhaps she can coexist with them if they remain in their assigned territories. She climbs onto the sill, curls into the single remaining patch of warm light, and dozes. The mint brushes her fur, but she tolerates it, for now. Days grow longer. Kana's studio fills with the smell of soil and soap. The paintings shift again, less grey, more light. Mochi notices more sky in them, more warmth on the edges. Kana even starts taking small commissions again, a children's book cover, a mural designed for a cafe. She stays up late, eyes bright, the soft crackle of her favorite jazz records spinning in the background. Mochi sits nearby, tail tucked neatly, watching. It feels almost like before the silence, before the grey. One night, Kana looks over and smiles. "You know, I think you were right," she says. Mochi flicks an ear. "I'm always right," she thinks. Kana nods toward the plants. "You kept me company when it was just us, but now look, there's a whole little world here." Mochi blinks. She resists the urge to roll her eyes, a world she thinks that I maintain peace in. Still, when Kana bends down to kiss her forehead, Mochi purrs. The conspiracy begins to feel less like one and more like a truce. Mochi no longer swats at the mint leaves. The basil, once wilting, has regained its proud scent, and the lavender leans protectively toward the light. Sometimes, when Kana's gone, Mochi naps among them, head resting on the cool edge of a pot. She dreams of sunlight and soft laughter and the sound of Kana humming. By the end of April, Kana surprises her again. She brings home a long, narrow planter box and sets it on the balcony outside. "You need fresh air too, Mochi," she says, smiling. "This will be our next project." Our. Mochi likes that word. Kana plants small flowers, marigolds, daisies, something called catmint. The name makes Mochi's ears perk up. She presses her fingers into the soil with care, humming a tune that sounds hopeful. When she's done, she opens the balcony door wide and says, "Go on, smell." Mochi steps cautiously onto the cool metal floor. The city air rushes around her, warm asphalt, passing rain, and something sweet from below. The flowers tremble in the breeze. Mochi sniffs them one by one. The catmint earns her approval. Kana laughs softly. "See? We can share the sunshine." Mochi sits beside her human, tail brushing the planter, eyes half closed. Together they watch the light fade across the buildings. Later that night, when Kana's asleep, Mochi returns to the window. The plants stand quiet in their ranks, their leaves catching the faint hum of the refrigerator and the whisper of traffic outside. Mochi stretches, yawns, and hops up beside them. "You're not bad," she says, silently of course, words are for humans. "Just stay in line." The mint sways slightly, as if in agreement. April. The window garden conspiracy. Notes. Human continues positive trend. Outdoor expansion successful. Plant alliance tolerated. Sunbeam interference ongoing but manageable. Recommend vigilance regarding watering schedule. Overzealous tendencies observed. Personal nap efficiency recovering to 93%. She curls up in the glow of the street light filtering through leaves, her whiskers twitching in sleep. The household breathes in rhythm again, one cat, one artist, and a window full of green. Chapter 5. May. Mochi first hears it on a Sunday morning, the sound of something breathing beyond the door. Not Kana. Kana is inside, humming over her sketchbook, cup of coffee cooling beside her. The sound is softer, hesitant, muffled by the apartment's thin walls and the thick quiet of a late May morning. A sniff, then a faint rustle. Mochi's ears tilt toward the sound like radar dishes. She pads silently across the living room and stops by the door, nose twitching. The hallway beyond smells like dust, old carpet, and something new. A faint trace of wet fur and cardboard. The door doesn't open, but Mochi can sense it, a presence, waiting. She sits, tail curling neatly around her paws. The world holds its breath. Then Kana sneezes behind her, and the spell breaks. Later that day, Kana explains. "It's the new tenant," she says, crouching to scratch Mochi's chin. "Moved in across the hall. She has a kitten." Mochi's eyes widen. "A kitten?" Kana laughs at her expression. "Don't give me that look. You're not being replaced." Mochi blinks slowly, the universal feline gesture of disbelief. Replaced or not, the idea of a kitten in the building disrupts her mental order of things. Mochi has ruled this corridor since her adoption. It's neutral territory, a place of passing footsteps, grocery bags, and polite nods between humans. Introducing a kitten into this delicate ecosystem is like inviting chaos into a monastery. She resumes her position by the door that evening, listening. Sure enough, the new tenant's voice carries faintly through the crack beneath the frame, soft, high, young. The kitten mews in reply, small and uncertain. Mochi tilts her head. So it begins. May settles into warmth. The window garden explodes in green, the mint threatening to conquer the lavender, the basil stretching towards sunlight like ambition. Kana's paintings follow suit, bright, messy, alive. She started experimenting again, mixing collage and watercolor, cutting shapes from old sketchbooks and gluing them into new worlds. Mochi supervises these sessions from her usual spot atop the radiator. Occasionally, she offers moral support in the form of a nap within view. Kana seems happy lately, but the hallway still calls to Mochi. May 9th. The first encounter. Kana leaves the door ajar while taking out the recycling. Mochi sees her chance and slips through the gap like a shadow. The hallway stretches long and quiet, a tunnel of beige paint and flickering lights. Mochi's paws make no sound on the carpet. She moves low, cautious but curious. Halfway down the hall, a faint jingling, a bell. Then, from around the corner, it appears. The kitten. Small, grey, too fluffy for its own good. Its eyes are enormous, the colour of early morning fog. The bell on its collar jingles again as it stares at Mochi, pupils wide. Mochi raises her head, unimpressed. A child, she decides, unseasoned. The kitten takes a hesitant step forward, sniffs, then meows. A soft, squeaky greeting that echoes down the hall. Mochi blinks once. She says nothing. The kitten meows again, higher this time, tail quivering like static. Pip, a voice calls from the open door at the end of the hall. Come back here. The kitten, apparently named Pip, hesitates, gives Mochi one last curious chirp, then darts away. Mochi sits there for a moment longer, tail flicking. She has seen enough. She returns to the apartment before Kana comes back, slipping inside as quietly as she left. Operation Reconnaissance complete. Kana laughs when she hears about Pip later in the week. Oh, the neighbor mentioned her, a rescue, barely 2 months old. You should be nice, Mochi. Mochi glares up at her from the couch. I am always nice, she thinks within reason. Kana smiles. You're such an old lady sometimes. Old? Mochi narrows her eyes. Age, she believes, is a matter of refinement. Still, she can't stop thinking about the kitten's uncertain mew. It lingers in her memory like the sound of rain trapped in a pipe. The next time Pip appears, it's purely accidental. Kana leaves the door cracked again, just a sliver, while carrying groceries inside. Mochi, as is her custom, watches. Then the kitten's bell jingles. Before Kana can react, a blur of grey fur squeezes through the gap and lands inside the apartment, eyes wide and wild. Pip freezes, one paw still raised. Mochi, perched on the couch, stares. Kana gasps. Oh no, not again. But Mochi has already leapt down. For a tense moment, both cats stand nose to nose in the middle of the living room, the air vibrating with unspoken law. Pip's tail puffs out like a dandelion. Mochi's remains perfectly still. Then, predictably, the kitten squeaks and rolls onto her back, paws in the air, a declaration of both surrender and play. Mochi sighs, children. Kana scoops Pip up with gentle hands. You sneaky thing, I'll take you back. But before she leaves, she glances at Mochi. That wasn't so bad, right? Mochi licks her shoulder as if to say, I am unmoved. Inside, though, she's intrigued. The kitten smelled of dust and milk, and uncertainty. It's not affection she feels, not exactly, but something adjacent. After that, Pip becomes a recurring presence in the hallway, a grey blur glimpsed under doors, a faint jingle at odd hours. Sometimes when Kana steps out for mail, Pip's nose appears beneath the crack, sniffing curiously. Mochi pretends not to notice but always positions herself nearby, just in case. Kana finds the whole thing amusing. Your little friend wants to play, she says. Friend is a strong word, Mochi thinks. Protege, perhaps. May 18th, a thunderstorm. Rain lashes the windows, wind howls through the vents. Kana works late into the night, painting to the rhythm of thunder. Mochi curls near her feet, watching lightning flicker across the ceiling. A sudden knock interrupts the quiet. 3 small taps on the door. Kana blinks. Who's knocking it? Then the sound again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Kana opens the door and there, soaked and shivering, sits Pip. No human in sight. Just the kitten, mewing pitifully, tiny paws leaving wet marks on the carpet. Oh no, Kana murmurs, scooping her up. You poor thing, you must have slipped out. Mochi watches as Kana towels the kitten dry, murmuring reassurances. The smell of wet fur fills the room. Pip sneezes once, then burrows into Kana's sweater. Kana looks over at Mochi. Just for the night, okay? We'll keep her safe until her owner's home. Mochi blinks slowly. Just for tonight. The kitten explores immediately. She totters from room to room, sniffing corners, climbing the couch, meowing at the plants. Mochi trails behind her like a silent chaperone. When Pip tries to chew a leaf from the basil, Mochi intervenes with a firm swat. When Pip attempts to climb Kana's drying easel, Mochi hisses, a soft warning. Eventually, the kitten collapses in exhaustion beside the radiator. Mochi watches her chest rise and fall, the soft bell on her collar barely moving. Kana smiles from the doorway. You're watching over her, huh? Mochi glances back, feigning indifference, but she doesn't move. The storm outside fades. Morning arrives, bright and gold. Pip's owner, a young woman named Rena, knocks apologetically on the door. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize she'd slipped out during the storm. Kana hands over the kitten, laughing. She was fine, Mochi kept her in line. Rena smiles down at Mochi. Thank you, little guardian. Mochi blinks. She'll allow the title. When the door closes and quiet returns, Kana kneels beside her. You're a good cat, you know that? Mochi pretends not to hear. But later, when Kana sets her breakfast down, she eats every bite. In the following days, Kana paints something new. A scene of two cats. One large, golden, calm, the other small and grey, chasing a shadow. The brushstrokes are soft, the light warm. Mochi studies it when it dries. It's accurate enough. In her mental ledger, she writes, May the visitor in the hallway. Notes, new resident observed. Species, feline, juvenile. Interactions, controlled. Storm incident managed successfully. Human exhibited heightened empathy. Household tranquility maintained. Recommend continued observation of hallway perimeters. Potential for mentorship program under review. She curls into her favorite spot, tail wrapped neatly, as the afternoon light slides through the leaves of the window garden. Outside, somewhere beyond the door, a faint jingle sounds again. Pip, alive and restless. Mochi closes her eyes. She'll deal with her apprentice tomorrow. For now, there is sunlight and peace. Chapter 6. June. June begins with a sunbeam. I have been studying it for 3 days. It starts in the kitchen window, slides along the wall like honey, and lands in exactly the right spot beside my food dish. I call this the prime zone. It's my personal patch of enlightenment. A cat could meditate there for hours, listening to the refrigerator hum its eternal lullaby and the ceiling fan spin lazy circles. My human, now, calls it the corner by the trash bin, which feels disrespectful. The prime zone deserves reverence. Now's mornings have grown quieter lately. They make coffee with a kind of grim focus, eyes heavy, shoulders curled in like wilted petals. The art table has stopped being an art table. It's more of a collection zone, now receipts, pens, and unfinished sketches folded into resignation. They used to hum while painting, little wordless tunes that floated through the apartment. Now, the only sound is the spoon clinking against a chipped mug. I've tried to help. I bring offerings a plastic cap, a stray thread, a single dust bunny, beautifully round. They glance at them, half smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. I've seen humans wilt before, though not quite like this. Usually it's a temporary thing, rainy day gloom, seasonal shedding of spirit, but this feels longer, like their colors being turned down a few shades. This morning they set down their coffee and stare out the window for a long time. There's sunlight on their cheek, and for a second I see the ghost of a smile. Then they whisper, maybe I should go outside. I tilt my head. Outside? The last time Now went outside for fun was April of last year, when they tried to sketch the park. They returned with mosquito bites and a scowl, but maybe June is different. June smells like cut grass, like late light and thawed hope. Even the air seems to hum with renewal. So I approve. Now puts on a hat. The floppy one that makes them look like an anxious traveler and packs a small bag. I follow, of course. I'm an essential part of any outing plan. Except, apparently, I am not invited. "No, Mochi, I'll be back later," they say, gently blocking me from the door. I stare. Betrayal has many flavors, but this one tastes like stale kibble. Still, I wait by the window. The prime zone is empty, and the sunbeam feels dull without them in it. They return 2 hours later, with the scent of the world clinging to their clothes, wildflowers, paint, and faint wood smoke. Something has changed. Their eyes are brighter. I weave around their legs, meowing the feline equivalent of "report, please." They sit cross-legged on the floor, unpacking their bag. Inside, a small watercolor pad, some fresh brushes, and a tube of blue paint. Just one color, but it's new. "I met a woman painting by the pond," they tell me softly, though I suspect they're really talking to themselves. She said, "Sometimes you only need one color to remember how to start." I meow wisely. Exactly so. They laugh, ruffle my fur, and fetch a glass of water. When they begin painting, it's clumsy at first, hesitant strokes, watery blobs, but as the minutes pass, something loosens. Their wrist moves freer, their breathing deepens, the air feels alive again. I sit on the table beside them, my tail curling toward the wet paper. They swat me away half-heartedly. "Not on the art, Mochi." The art. Finally, the art. The days lengthen into something golden. Mornings turn to afternoons in a blur of movement and brushstrokes. Now paint small things: a cup of tea, a passing bird, the cracked pot on the balcony that somehow keeps blooming. They use that same blue paint, mixing it with other colors until it becomes everything: the sky, the shadow, the heart of it all. Sometimes they talk while they paint, as if narrating their thoughts for an invisible friend. "I thought art was supposed to be big," they say one evening, "but I think it's supposed to be small too. Just honest." I agree, though I'm mostly occupied with catching a stray moth. Art can wait. When they're done, they hold up the paper like a small miracle. It's simple, a watercolor of our kitchen window, with sunlight streaming in and a cat-shaped silhouette on the sill. "Do you think that's you, Mochi?" I flick my tail, obviously. Now chuckles and tapes it to the wall. The refrigerator hum approves. By mid-June, the apartment begins to smell like turpentine and toast again, the perfume of creation. There's rhythm now. Paint, eat, nap, repeat. Now even starts talking about maybe showing again. In the fall, I don't know what that means exactly, but it makes them move faster and smile more. One morning though, something odd happens. I wake to find Nao gone. Not just in another room, gone. The apartment is empty. Sunlight pooling across the floor like spilled cream. Panic is not dignified, but I experience a mild form of it. I meow once, then twice, then louder. Finally the door opens. Nao stumbles in, out of breath, clutching a folded piece of paper. Their cheeks are pink from running. "I did it," they whisper. "I signed up for the local art fair." They collapse on the couch, laughing and shaking all at once. I jump beside them and purr like I'm smoothing out the tremors. When they finally relax, they rest a hand on my back. "You'll have to help me pick which ones to bring." I meow in approval, though I suspect my opinion will be tragically undervalued. Late June brings thunderstorms. Heavy, roaring things that rattle the windows and flash the world white. I hate thunder, but Nao loves it. They say it makes the world sound alive. During one storm, the power goes out. The apartment glows with candlelight, and rain hammers the roof like 1,000 small paws. Nao sits on the floor with their sketchbook, tracing outlines in the dim flicker. I curl against their leg, comforted by the steady sound of pencil against paper. They murmur, "You know, Mochi, I think I'm okay now. I think I'm finding my way back." I purr, low and slow. Humans have such fragile hearts. They forget that even when the light goes out, it always returns softer maybe, but warmer too. When the storm ends, Now opens the window. The smell of wet earth drifts in. Everything feels washed clean. At the end of the month, I find myself in the prime zone again, half asleep, listening to the faint sound of music from Now's phone. The kitchen window glows, catching the reflection of their newest painting, a cat curled in sunlight, half real, half dream. They're humming in, not a tune I know, but one that feels familiar, like something the heart hums when it starts remembering joy. I stretch, yawn, and close my eyes. In the warmth, I think about how June began with silence, with stillness, and how it's ending with color, with breath. Maybe that's what healing looks like for humans, not sudden brightness, but a slow returning. And for me, it's simple. Every morning I wake, I find the light, I make sure it touches both of us. That's all the wisdom a house cat needs. Chapter 7. July. The air hums in July. It doesn't just sit around like it does in winter, it thrums, full of cicada buzz and sun heat. The whole world outside seems alive and restless. Inside, the apartment sweats too, though less gracefully. The ceiling fan whines like an old dog, and Now keeps muttering about buying a real air conditioner someday. I, of course, have perfected my summer technique, the art of stillness. I move only when absolutely necessary. Food, necessary. Stretch, sometimes. Anything else, optional. I drape myself along the cool tiles near the balcony door, watching the curtain sway in slow, lazy arcs. The light that filters through it has softened into a buttery haze, and dust motes drift like planets caught mid-orbit. Now is painting again. They've been at it nearly every day since June, though their schedule is less predictable now, bursts of motion followed by long, slumped silences. Some days they paint like they're racing time itself. Others, they just stare at the canvas, brush dangling loosely, gaze far away. I've learned not to interfere. Creativity, I've decided, is like hunting. It requires patience, silence, and the occasional pounce. Today, though, something feels different. Now keeps pacing between the canvas and the sink, where a cup of melting ice water sweats onto the counter. Their brow furrows as they look back and forth, back and forth. I can't tell if it's done. They mutter, maybe I overworked it, maybe it's awful. I lift my head, squinting. It's a large piece, a blue cat surrounded by faint circles of light, the background streaked with sunrise orange. I think it's perfect, but humans are rarely satisfied with perfection when anxiety is available. I flick my tail once, slow and deliberate. It's fine, I'm saying. Take a nap. Now sighs. You're right, Mochi. You always are. I am, of course. In the evenings, the heat fades into a humid glow. The balcony becomes the center of our small universe. Nao drags a chair out there, along with a sketchbook and a glass of something cold. I follow, settling under the small table where the potted basil leans toward the sunset. We watch the city from our third-floor perch. Distant rooftops shimmer, and every few seconds a car horn sighs somewhere below. Fireflies blink near the tree line beyond the parking lot, tiny stars rehearsing for night. Now taps the pencil against their knee. Do you think I'll be ready, Mochi, for the fair? I yawn. The art fair. It has become the great looming presence in our life, a bright, distant thing that seems both thrilling and terrifying to them. I don't fully understand why. Humans like to make strange rituals out of simple things. A painting, a table, a few strangers. It sounds like just another day, but apparently it's much more than that. They keep talking, voice quieter now. I keep worrying no one will care, that maybe I waited too long to start again. The fireflies blink like tiny affirmations. I glance up at them thinking, you didn't wait too long, you waited just right. But since my meows don't come with subtitles, I settle for rubbing against their leg until they smile. You're a good cat, Mochi, they whisper. That night they dream aloud. I can tell from the little murmurs and half-formed smiles that drift through their sleep. Their hand rests near me, fingers twitching as if sketching even in dreams. Mid-July arrives with thunder, though this time it's dry and distant, the kind that rumbles just enough to remind you the sky has a temper. The days are all the same, and yet not. Now paints less now, but looks at their finished work more. They move through the apartment with a certain tension, as if something invisible has begun to count down. I feel it too, that quiet pulse of anticipation that runs under everything. One afternoon, while Nao is out buying groceries, or possibly procrastinating, I investigate the studio table. Stacks of canvases lean against the wall, the kitchen window from June, the self-portrait I definitely sat on once, and a new piece, a night scene of the balcony, where the basil pot gleams under a small crescent moon. I can almost hear the stillness inside it. I press my nose to the edge of the painting. It smells like turpentine and nerves. Now returns just as I'm inspecting another one, a minimalist piece with streaks of white that remind me of fur. "Caught you, Inspector?" They laugh, but there's something soft in their voice, something almost grateful, like they're glad someone's looking. The first heat wave hits on the 18th, the kind that flattens the afternoon, turning every breath into soup. Now sets up a fan in the living room and declares it communal property. I claim the exact center of the airflow. "You're such a freeloader," they say, fanning themselves with a sketchbook. I blink lazily. "You're welcome for my company." The apartment becomes a sauna. Ice melts faster than resolve. Now gives up on painting for 3 days, retreating into naps and half-hearted television. I join in solidarity. We nap like it's a career. But on the 4th morning, something shifts. I wake to find Now sitting at the window, sketching the city skyline, sweat still glistening, but eyes focused. The dawn light paints them in gold and soft pink. They don't see me watching. I can tell in the set of their shoulders and the steady rhythm of pencil strokes that they're finally working for themselves, not for the fear, not for the fear. When they turn the page and start again, I stretch luxuriously and take my place beside them. Every artist, after all, needs a muse. By late July, small storms begin to roll through at sunset. Not dramatic ones, brief showers that wash the dust off the leaves and leave the air smelling like possibility. Now starts talking about things again. Maybe joining a local artist group. Maybe taking commissions. Maybe. The word fills our home like the sound of rain, gentle and endless. One evening they set out all the paintings they planned to bring to the fair. I perch nearby, the designated curator. "What do you think, Mochi?" There are 5 in total. The kitchen sunbeam, the blue cat surrounded by light, the balcony at night, a cup of tea, one I haven't seen before, a portrait of a hand resting beside a sleeping cat. I blink at the last one, suspicious. "Don't give me that look," they say. "It's art, and you were available." Available? I am inspirational material. Still, I like it. The painting feels warm, like we're both part of something larger. At the end of the month, the night air cools just enough for comfort. Now sits on the balcony again, the glow from their phone lighting their face. They're scrolling through an email, I can tell from the faint blue reflection in their eyes. Then, softly, I got in. They accepted my application. They let out a small, incredulous laugh, covering their mouth. "Oh my God, Mochi, I'm actually doing this." I meow once, long and low, the kind of sound that fills the space between words. They reach down, brushing their fingers against my fur. "You'll be proud of me, right?" Proud isn't the word, but I am content. I remember how they looked in January, thin, light, unopened sketchbooks, silence hanging heavy like a second ceiling. And now, the apartment glows again. The table is alive with color. They hum while they wash brushes. Healing, I've decided, sounds like that, humming. The last day of July is a still one. No breeze, no bird song, just that deep, stretched out quiet summer saves for its own reflection. Now sits cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by finished canvases and packing materials. They hum softly as they work, occasionally stopping to write a label or sign their name. I watch from the arm of the couch, eyes half-lidded, tail swishing with the rhythm of the tape dispenser. When they're done, they slump backward, exhausted but smiling. All packed, all ready. I jump down, circle once and curl up against their side. They let their hand fall into my fur, fingers moving absently. "Thank you, Mochi," they murmur, half asleep already. "For staying." I close my eyes, purring so quietly it almost blends with the night. It's what I do, stay. Through heat and stillness, through noise and quiet. Through every season until their heart remembers itself. Chapter 8. August. Humans call it summer's end, but August feels more like the world holding its breath. The light has softened still gold, but thicker now, slower to fade. The mornings are warm, but edged with a cool whisper, and when I curl up by the window, I can smell it, change, faint and green, like the first turning of a leaf. Now doesn't notice that kind of thing. They're too busy panicking. The art fair is in 3 days. Our once serene apartment now looks like a creative tornado. Hit-it brushes, canvas wraps, and paper labels scattered across every surface. The living room smells like fresh paint, instant noodles, and stress. Now paces in circles, muttering to themselves. Do I have enough business cards? Should I even have business cards? What if no one comes to the booth? What if too many people come? I follow at a dignified distance, tail flicking with the rhythm of their worry. When they drop to their knees and groan, I decide it's time for an intervention. I hop onto the table, plant myself directly in front of their newest piece, a painting of the city skyline at dusk, and stare meaningfully. They blink at me. "Mochi, please." I don't have time. I stretch very slowly, knocking a roll of tape off the edge. It lands with a satisfying thud. They sigh. "Fine, break time." "Excellent." Now sits cross-legged on the floor, drinking water. I settle onto their lap, kneading gently. It's a proven calming technique. Their heartbeat, erratic a moment ago, starts to slow. "I'm just scared," they murmur. "It's been so long since I showed anything. What if they look at my stuff and just walk away?" I tilt my head. Then they walk away, I think. "But you'll still have your hands, your brushes, your colors. You'll still have me." But of course humans don't speak fluent cat. Instead I lick their wrist once. It seems to help. They smile faintly. "You're right, it's silly to panic. It's just an art fair." I blink. It's not silly, but she's learning. The next few days whirl by in motion. Now prints small tags, buys a new shirt, something presentable but not trying too hard, and carefully wraps each painting in soft paper. They even practice smiling in the mirror, which frankly is alarming. On the morning of the fair, the world feels charged. Now wakes before dawn, humming under their breath. I watch from the windowsill as they pack the car, a rare display of energy that almost makes me proud. They even remember to fill my dish and open the blinds for my daily sun ritual. "Wish me luck, Mochi," they say, crouching to scratch behind my ears. Their voice trembles just a little. Luck is unnecessary. They have already done the hardest part starting again, but I chirp anyway. The door closes, and for the first time in months, the apartment feels empty in a different way, not heavy, but expectant. The day stretches long. I nap, I wander, I inspect the basil plant, which is now leaning dramatically to one side like it has aspirations of poetry. The city hums in the distance, low and constant. I imagine Noah's booth, the white tent, the fluttering banner, the sunlight glancing off varnished paint. I imagine them talking to people, maybe laughing, maybe nervous but brave. When they finally return, the sun is dipping low, and their arms are full not just with paintings, but with something unseen. "Hey Mochi," they say, voice soft and disbelieving. "It went really well." I sit up, tail curling. "They liked them?" they continue, dropping the bag with a laugh. "They bought 2 pieces. I actually sold art, Mochi." They kneel, scooping me into their arms before I can protest. People asked about you too, the cat in the blue painting. You're basically famous. I blink, pretending not to care, but inside something purrs deeper than usual. Now keeps talking, voice brighter now, words tumbling over each other. Someone even invited me to join a small gallery group. It's not official yet, but Mochi, I think this might actually be happening. I nuzzle under their chin. Of course it's happening. The following week is full of laughter, pain, and the kind of exhaustion that smells like happiness. Now starts painting again, almost immediately, but this time there's no hesitation, no second guessing, no quiet dread. Their brush moves with confidence, light tapping like raindrops on a calm pond. They talk more too, to friends, to the neighbor who drops by with a borrowed screwdriver, even to the mail carrier. The house, once silent and stale, now hums with life. Sometimes while they work, they tell me stories, not to anyone, just to me. There was this old man at the fair, they say one evening, crouched by the balcony. He said he used to paint but stopped when his wife passed. Then he saw the cat painting the one with the light, and he said it made him feel calm again. Isn't that something? I blink slowly. It is. Humans forget how much small beauty can matter until it finds them again. Now smiles at the memory, eyes soft. I want to make more of that. Things that feel gentle. Gentle, yes. The world could use more of that. By mid-August, the air grows thick and nostalgic. The nights are long enough for crickets to sing, but short enough to feel stolen. One evening now brings out a sketchbook and a cup of iced tea. They settle beside me on the balcony floor, watching the horizon fade into mauve. I used to think success had to be huge, they say quietly, but maybe it's just having enough color, enough quiet, enough company. They glance at me. You've been good company, you know. I flick my tail, modest. The sky deepens, stars prickling through. Now sketches something small and quick, not serious, just shapes and lines. I peer over, and there I am, curled, half asleep, a faint swirl of fur beneath the moonlight. They tilt the page toward me. You like it? I meow. I love it. The next morning I find Now humming while cooking, not instant noodles, not cereal, but real food. The scent of sautéed vegetables and garlic fills the apartment. They glance at me and laugh. Don't look so shocked. I am shocked. This is unprecedented. They place a small plate of something green and pretty on the table. Celebration dinner. We're thriving, Mochi. We? I suppose that includes me. After eating, Now sits by the window, content in the way that makes silence a good thing, not a heavy one. I hop up beside them, curling into the crook of their arm. Outside, a faint drizzle begins soft rain, gentle as breathing, the kind that leaves the air cool and the city shining. Now whispers almost to themselves, it feels like a new season's coming. I purr, it always is. That night I dream of sunlight, not the harsh white kind, from summer's peak, but soft gold filtered through curtains. In the dream, Now paints endlessly, and I nap nearby. No fear, no rush, no silence too deep to cross, just rhythm. When I wake, the morning light looks exactly the same. Now is still asleep, tangled in blankets, their face peaceful. On the floor near the easel, a half-finished painting waits a hand holding a cup of light. Not literal light, of course, but something close to it. I sit and watch the canvas for a while, until the first cicada starts to sing. August hums on. And for the first time in a long while, everything, even the quiet, feels full. Chapter the 9th of September. I have found, after many seasons of careful observation, that the sun is a moody creature. In winter it hides for days and pretends not to know us. In spring it peeks through clouds like a bashful guest. But in late summer, when September sighs in through the half-open window, the sun becomes lazy, draping itself across the furniture like a cat that has given up pretending to do anything important. That's why I spend most of my mornings in the sunroom now. My human says she designed it as her creative space, but clearly the sun designed it for me. The rug is soft, the air smells faintly of old paint and rosemary, and the light rolls in thick and golden like honey. If you're a cat, this is what paradise feels like. But lately, paradise has been quiet. My human doesn't hum anymore when she paints. She used to. It was an absent-minded tune, something cheerful and a little off-key, but it filled the corners of the house. Now the only sounds are the scratch of brush bristles and the slow turning of pages when she flips through her old sketchbooks. I think the silence worries the sun, too. Its warmth feels weaker somehow. She keeps saying, maybe I'll try something new this month. But then she doesn't. Instead, she sits and stares at a canvas that stays white for days. I've tried sitting on it, which I thought might help her make a decision, but she just laughs and scratches behind my ears. Not everything needs your paw print, Mochi. Perhaps not, but something needs to change. It begins one afternoon when a strange scent drifts in from the back of the room, a kind of dust and cedar smell that doesn't belong. My tail flicks. I know every corner of this house, every drawer, every cupboard, every mysterious place where the red dot hides. So when I smell something new, I take it personally. The scent leads me to a low cabinet beneath the window seat. It's a place she never opens, one of those human storage things where the forgotten objects go to sleep. The handle is just within paw's reach, and after a few dignified tugs and one undignified slip, it opens with a sigh. Inside, a stack of canvases. Old ones, dust-covered, edges frayed, but still smelling faintly of oil and sunlight. They lean against each other like tied friends, half hidden under a faded blanket. I can feel the air change heavier, but not unpleasant, like memories waking up. And then she walks in. Mochi, what are you? Her voice stops. The silence that follows feels as long as a nap. Oh. She kneels beside me, brushing off the dust. The first canvas shows a woman sitting in a meadow, painted in soft blues and yellows. There's a second darker one, a city skyline with rain-slicked streets. A third, a pair of hands reaching across an empty table. I can smell the emotion rising from her, bittersweet, hesitant, a little sad. I forgot I even had these, she murmurs. These were from art school. She sits cross-legged on the rug, flipping through each one. Her fingers tremble slightly. I curl up on her lap, which seems like the right thing to do. Humans are delicate when they remember things like glass that wants to be touched, but not too hard. She stays there for hours, tracing lines on old brush strokes, whispering to herself. When the sun finally slides down behind the rooftops, she says softly, maybe I should paint like this again. Not for the show, not for the commissions, just for me. I purr. It's not an answer, but it's the sound I make when the world feels right again. The next morning she doesn't reach for her phone or her planner. She makes coffee, hums something under her breath, and opens her window wide. The smell of rain comes in sharp and alive. She sets a fresh canvas on the easel and looks out at the grey sky. Okay, she says, let's start over. She paints for hours. The colors she uses are softer than before, less perfect, more true. The strokes are loose, full of movement. I lie on the window seat and watch her hands, the way her eyes narrow, the way her shoulders drop when she forgets to be afraid of getting it wrong. Sometimes she talks to herself. Sometimes she talks to me. You like it, don't you, Mochi? I flick my tail. She knows that means yes. The sun creeps back through the glass, warming the room again. It feels brighter, happier, almost smug. A few days later, she invites a friend over, someone from the old days. I remember the name vaguely from her phone calls, Sam. They arrive carrying a bag of croissants and the smell of cinnamon. The reunion is loud and full of laughter. I stay close but unseen, slipping between furniture like a ghost with fur. Humans like to forget how much we listen. I can't believe you found those old pieces, Sam says, setting their coffee down. You used to be obsessed with painting light, remember that? I remember you teasing me for it, she says, smiling. Well, it worked. These look incredible. You should show them again. She shakes her head. They're too personal. Sam leans forward. That's why they're good. There's a long pause. I can tell she's thinking about it. Her fingers twitch that small nervous motion she does when an idea starts forming, but she's not sure she's brave enough to hold it yet. After Sam leaves, she sits in the sunroom again. Quiet. The light slants across her face. Too personal, she repeats softly, then glances at me. But maybe that's what I've been missing, huh? I blink at her, slowly. That's the cat way of saying yes, you understand now. Evening. The sky is burning orange and rose, and the air hums with the faint, sweet fatigue of late summer. I stretch on the warm rug, every inch of fur soaked in gold. My human's paintbrush moves in steady rhythm. Each stroke sounds like contentment. She's working on something new, a self-portrait, I think. It's strange, though. She's painted herself sitting here, in the sunroom, surrounded by light, but in the corner of the painting, almost hidden, there's a small grey cat watching her. I recognize myself immediately, of course. Don't look so smug, she teases, dabbing white into the highlights of my whiskers. You're part of this too. I meow once for dignity's sake, but inside, I feel something small and warm bloom a sense that I've done something right. The house hums again. The quiet isn't empty anymore. It's peaceful, full. The sun sinks lower. I curl up near her feet as the last of the golden light fades to blue. When she finally puts the brush down and sighs a happy sigh, not the heavy kind, she whispers, "Thank you, Mochi." Her hand rests gently on my back. And for the first time in many months, I feel her heartbeat steady, strong, and calm beneath her skin. I think the sunroom feels it too, because just before night falls, one last ray of light slips through the window and settles over us soft as a promise. The world outside rustles with the slow approach of autumn. The leaves haven't turned yet, but I can smell it coming. Wood smoke, cooler nights, new beginnings disguised as endings. My human yawns, stretches, and turns off the lamp. I watch her walk to the bedroom, pausing in the doorway to glance back at her painting. Her eyes linger there, and something in them glows. When she finally disappears down the hall, I stay behind in the sunroom. The moon has taken the sun's place now, spilling silver where gold used to be. I lie down beneath the easel, where faint drops of blue paint dot the floor. It feels right, being here guarding this space, this quiet moment where light and love have learned how to return. I close my eyes, my tail curls around my nose, and in the hush between day and night, I purr a little prayer for tomorrow. Not for new beginnings, not for perfect art, just for more days like this. Warm, still, full of the small, secret happiness of being together. Chapter 10, October. October has a different rhythm. The sun no longer stretches lazily across the floors. Instead, it hangs like a careful observer, dappled and hesitant, filtering through the thinning leaves outside. Shadows grow long in the late afternoons, and I find myself moving with them, tracing their angles across the rug, the table, the tip of the easel where Noah works. It is cooler now. The air carries a certain crunch, the faint smell of dry leaves pressed into the city sidewalks, the whisper of distant bonfires. Noah calls it inspiration in the wind. I call it perfect napping weather. I'll wake to find the apartment quiet, too quiet. Now is at the table, painting slowly, methodically, lips pressed together in a way that suggests something serious is happening. The sun filters through the window at just the right angle to catch the little flecks of dust that float lazily in the air. I pad closer. Something feels off. "Morning, Mochi," Now says, without looking up. Their voice is calm, but there's a tension coiled beneath it. I think I need a break. This surprises me. I have never seen them take a break in the middle of a series. They usually paint until their wrist aches, until the coffee goes cold, until the light leaves the room. A break. Curiosity and concern pull me onto their lap. I knead gently. My purrs begin softly, steadying the world. Humans rarely admit when they need pause, but sometimes they forget that silence can be just as loud. Now leans back in the chair, eyes half closed. I've been thinking too much about the fair, about what's next, about everything. I forgot why I even started painting in the first place. I tilt my head, then start now. Start because it feels right, not because the world is watching. But humans rarely understand cat logic. Instead, they scratch behind my ears, careful, and murmur, "You're always right, Mochi, you always are." It's the closest I'll ever get to a full confession. I purr louder. October brings smaller ventures. A leaf falls through the open balcony door one morning, crisp, red, and trembling. I watch it land on the sunroom rug and freeze. A leaf is no ordinary thing. It is the season in miniature. Now notices it too, picking it up and holding it against their cheek, breathing in the smell of fall. "Perfect," they whisper, sketching quickly in a small notebook. "You, me, the leaf, everything." I meow once approvingly. After all, I helped usher it in. The leaf becomes our quiet project. Now studies it, paints it, moves it around the table to see how the light hits. I observe. Occasionally I swipe at it gently with my paw, testing its resilience. The leaf twitches and dances. I like the way it hums with life, even after being torn from its tree. It reminds me a little of now, fragile, resilient, glowing faintly even when the world feels heavy. The days grow shorter. I adjust my routines. Nap schedules shift, sunbeams are followed more carefully, and I spend evenings curled near Nao's side as they work by lamplight. They've started painting again consistently, but it's different now. Not frantic, not rushed. Each stroke feels intentional, reflective. I watch as they paint a pair of hands resting over a cup of tea, the steam curling upward, like thoughts made visible. They hum softly, not the old tune, something new, slower, more like breathing. "Do you think anyone will care about this?" they ask, almost to themselves. I nudge their arm gently with my head. Care? They already do. The painting vibrates with honesty. It carries the quiet joy of watching the world, observing, being. That is enough. They smile faintly, brushing my fur in gratitude. One rainy afternoon, the storm hits hard. The sky is grey and the rain thrums against the balcony door. I am perched on the windowsill, ears twitching at every drop, tail flicking anxiously. Now works by the table, unbothered, brush moving in careful rhythm. The power flickers, then goes out. Darkness swallows the apartment except for the glow of the candle on the table. I jump down, circling Nao's feet. They glance at me, unamused. "I know, Mochi." They sigh. "I'll be fine, but thanks for worrying." I follow them to the couch. Together we watch the storm. There is a peculiar serenity in sitting with another being, while chaos dances outside. I curl up beside Nao, resting my head against their knee. They murmur, "You know, I never realized how much I rely on you, not just for company, but for this, for perspective." I blink slowly. Perspective is usually in the sunbeam, but I understand. October also brings tiny surprises. I discover an old sketchbook hidden beneath a stack of canvases. Its pages are filled with small studies, hands, rooftops, teacups, and cats. One sketch is almost exactly like me, curled in sunlight, tail flicked around my nose. Another shows Nao's face, serene, eyes half closed, brush poised. They catch me flipping the pages. "Mochi, you found my old thoughts." They laugh. "I forgot these existed." I knead the corner of the sketchbook gently. My job, after all, is to preserve memory as well as inspire action. "Maybe I should finish these," they muse, half to me, half to the empty room. "See what I can do now that I remember why I loved it." The quiet hope in their voice makes my purring grow louder. Evenings become my favorite time. The balcony glows faintly with residual light, and now set small candles across the sill. They sip tea, brush wet with paint resting nearby, sketchbook open on their lap. I curl near their feet, tail draped over their shoes, ears flicking at distant sounds. They hum again, not the old tune, not exactly new, a melody that seems to bridge months of silence and work and hope. I close my eyes and listen, feeling the pulse of their heart next to mine. The city outside rustles, leaves turn red and gold, rain glimmers on the sidewalk. I could stay here forever and be content. Sometimes humans forget the small things. They forget that warmth matters more than applause, that presence matters more than recognition. They forget that healing doesn't have to be loud. It can be the quiet hum of a brush over canvas, a cat watching patiently, a leaf drifting across a sunlit floor. Now doesn't forget entirely. Not anymore. I've made sure of that. On the last night of October, the apartment is bathed in golden lamplight and faint orange glow from the street below. The last leaves cling to the trees, hesitant but resolute. Now places the final sketch of the month on the wall, a simple watercolor of the sunroom, with me curled in the foreground, sleeping. They step back, brush in hand, and smile faintly. We did okay, Mochi. Better than okay. I blink slowly, curling my tail around my nose. Yes, we did. Outside, the world smells of smoke and falling leaves. The city hums softly, carrying the scent of change. I settle into my favorite sunbeam, now cooler, still warm, and think about all the months behind us. All the months ahead. And how, no matter what, I will be here watching, waiting, guiding, purring. Because some things, the sun, the light, the quiet love of a housecat, are eternal. Chapter 11. November. November arrives with a chill that doesn't announce itself. It creeps in under doors, slips between window panes, and rolls through the apartment like a ghost. The air smells faintly of wet leaves and wood smoke, and even the sun seems thinner, now a pale coin, in the sky, hesitant to shine. I have adjusted my routines. The balcony naps are shorter. The window seat becomes my throne of warmth and observation. Now leaves the window slightly open anyway, as if they, too, want to catch the faint pulse of the changing season. They are quieter now, not because of sadness, but because the rhythm of life has slowed. The fair is behind them. The new projects are underway. The sketches from October lie scattered across the studio table, small testaments to things remembered and rediscovered. I watch them paint in the mornings, brush strokes precise, deliberate. I trace along the edges of the rug, my paws silent, tail curling around my legs like a comma at the end of a sentence. They hum occasionally, a low, gentle note, almost like a heartbeat, almost like gratitude. Sometimes when the room is quiet, I think about how much they've changed since summer. Not drastically, not in ways that would shock a stranger, but subtly. Their shoulders are less tense, their gaze rests on the canvas, not the clock. They linger in corners, in sunlight, in thought. The first frost arrives unexpectedly. I wake to find tiny crystals along the balcony railing, delicate as sugar, catching the morning light. Now murmurs in surprise, leaning against the window, eyes tracing each sparkling edge. I sit beside them, my fur warming against the chill. It's beautiful, they whisper. It's fleeting, but beautiful. I flick my tail. Fleeting is something I understand. Sunbeams disappear. Birds leave. Leaves fall. The warmth of a lap is not forever. But beauty, that lingers, if only for a moment. November evenings are for fires, even if only in imagination. Now lights a small candle on the table, arranging sketches and brushes around it like offerings. I hop onto the chair beside them, settling into the curve of their arm. They work in a quiet rhythm, pencil moving across paper. Sometimes they pause to sip tea. Sometimes they pause to gaze out the window at the darkened city. Their fingers brush over the sketchbook, tracing old lines, hesitant, careful. You know, they murmur, I never realized how much I needed this, the quiet, the ritual, the small things. I blinked slowly, curling a little closer. Needed indeed. Some humans forget that presence can heal, that warmth, attention, and quiet support can be more powerful than praise, more sustaining than applause. I've reminded them in my own way, day by day. Mid-month, now discovers something unexpected. A letter, stuck behind a stack of old canvases. It is yellowed, edges brittle, handwriting that trembles slightly like it has traveled through time. They read it silently at first, then aloud. It's from my old art teacher. Noel says softly. They wrote that they always believed in me, even when I didn't. They pause, brush hovering over the page. I press my nose to their arm. It's the right thing to do. Humans are fragile when they confront their own history, and I am the proper companion for such moments. Tears leak quietly. Not sorrow, not sadness, but something else release. Acknowledgement, growth. I forgot this existed, they whisper. I think I needed to forget to find my own way back. I need gently, purring. It is enough, it is always enough. The apartment grows cozier as November deepens. Now lights more candles, sets warm tea on the table, and drapes blankets across chairs and sofas. I claim the spot on the rug, closest to the heater vent, stretching fully, luxuriating in the warmth. Sometimes they talk to me while painting. I wonder if anyone else notices the little things, Mochi. The light in a corner, the curve of a leaf, the way shadows fall across the canvas. I notice now. I blink slowly. Yes, they do. Sometimes I try to catch the light in my pores, but it slips through. The sun has gone down, shadows stretch long across the floor. The candle flickers. Life moves forward, always forward. Now hums again, soft and low. I recognize the tune, a different one than the summer, but equally contented. A melody, shaped by memory and hope. One evening, a storm begins. Wind rattles the windows, rain lashes the balcony door. Now remains calm, brush in hand, eyes focused. I circle the room, tail high, ears twitching at every sharp clap of thunder. They glance at me, a small smile breaking through concentration. You're not scared, are you, Mochi? I blink slowly. Scared? Never. I leap onto the chair, curling against their side. The storm continues, relentless outside, but inside we are warm, protected, connected. Now sighs, soft and long. It's strange. I used to be afraid of storms, afraid of being alone, afraid of mistakes, afraid of not being good enough. They pause, brush in hand suspended over the page. I'm not so afraid anymore. I purr, tail brushing the edge of the table. That is the sound of reassurance. That is the sound of home. As November wanes, the city outside becomes quieter. The leaves that remain cling to branches like memories, fragile but stubborn. The air smells of smoke and damp earth. Now paints by lamplight each evening, small cups of tea warming their hands. I sit beside them, quietly supervising, occasionally nudging a brush or curling into the curve of a sketchbook. They are patient now, slower, more attentive to the process than the outcome. They talk to me about ideas, not worries. Maybe I'll try painting the neighborhood next, they say one night, voice soft but certain. The streets, the lights, the ordinary things, maybe that's enough. It is more than enough. On the last night of November, I perch on the windowsill, watching frost begin to creep along the edges of the balcony. The city glows faintly below, muted and amber in the street lamps. Now works by candlelight, sketching quietly, humming their new tune, the one shaped by patience and memory. I think about the months behind us, sun-filled mornings, anxious afternoons, stormy nights, quiet recoveries. I think about the months ahead, winter, waiting beyond the door, cold and honest, demanding attention. I am content, because no matter the season, no matter the light, no matter the chill, I am here, watching, waiting, purring, guiding in the quietest of ways. The warmth of our little universe has returned stronger than ever, and I know that come December, when the cold truly sets in, we will face it together. I blink slowly, tail curling around my nose, purring softly into the night. November hums on, quiet, patient, and full of promise. Chapter 12. December arrives like a whisper. The wind slips through the streets, carrying the scent of frost and pine. The city is quiet, the kind of quiet that hums just beneath the surface, waiting for attention. I notice it first in the morning, stretching in the sunroom as light glints off the edges of frost on the balcony railing. The sunlight is pale, diffused, delicate, not bold or brash like summer, but soft and constant, like memory. Now moves more slowly now. The chill seems to seep into their bones, but not entirely. They have learned the rhythm of the months, how to pace themselves, how to let the brush linger on a single stroke, how to breathe. I watch them, tail curled, from my perch on the windowsill. There is a subtle melancholy to December, not sadness exactly, but a kind of reflective stillness. The year is ending. The fair is long past. Friends are scattered by weather and distance. Even the city seems quieter, roads glinting wet from the first snow. Now lights a small candle on the table, its flame trembling. They brush at the bristles of a new canvas, hesitating, unsure where to begin. I hop onto the table, tail flicking, brushing against the edge. You always know when I need a nudge, they whisper, even after all these months. I blink slowly. Yes, I have been paying attention, always. I find that humans in winter need warmth in ways beyond heat. They need reassurance, presence, and the gentle rhythm of life carried forward by something reliable. I curl into Nao's lap, purring. Their hands rest on my back, smoothing fur as though they are trying to transfer calm through touch alone. It's been a lot, Nao murmurs. This year, the fair, the studio, everything. I thought I was ready for it, but sometimes I still feel small. I need their knees, gently, a soft reminder. Being small is not weakness. Being present is everything. They laugh faintly. You're a remarkable cat, you know that, right? Of course. I always know. The first snow falls quietly, like it is afraid of making too much noise. I watch from the balcony as white drifts down, coating rooftops, ledges, and the tops of parked cars. Each flake is tiny, perfect, transient. I swipe at one that lands on the windowsill. It melts instantly. Now laughs, a quiet sound, and leans on the sill beside me. It's beautiful, they say. I think I've been so focused on work and worry that I forgot to notice beauty like this. I nuzzle their side, remembering as part of the job. December evenings stretch long. The sun disappears before the workday ends. Now lights lamps, arranges small candles, and sets up the space with quiet intention. They sip tea, brush in hand, eyes narrowed in concentration. I curl at their feet, tail draped across the rug like a ribbon. They paint steadily, humming softly a tune that is theirs, shaped by months of quiet and care. The strokes are delicate, deliberate, unhurried. The canvases begin to fill with light and shadow, subtlety and depth, reflections of frost, warmth, and everything in between. Sometimes they pause and speak to me. Do you think anyone else notices this? The quiet moments, the subtle colors, the things I've been missing? I blink slowly, brushing against their ankle. Of course they notice. A few days before the winter solstice, Nao decides to do something different. They gather small scraps of paper, leftover paints, and a handful of candles. I watch as they arrange them carefully on the floor. The shapes are abstract, a constellation of color, light, and shadow. Sometimes, they say, voice soft, I feel like this is what the world should be. A little chaotic, a little fragile, but beautiful if you look closely. I settle in the middle of it all, a small grey presence among color and light. My purring fills the room, steadying the arrangement. They smile, a full, warm smile. You're perfect, they whisper. I blink slowly, dignified. Yes, I know. The night of the solstice arrives. The city is quiet, lights flickering faintly through fog. Now sits in the sunroom, sketchbook open, candlelight dancing across their face. I curl beside them, tail brushing their arm. They talk to me softly, words spilling in a quiet rhythm. I think I understand now. Art isn't just about showing the world. It's about noticing it, about living it, about sharing small moments, even if no one else sees them. I purr. This is the truth I've been teaching them patiently all year. Presence is enough. Attention is enough. Love, silent but steady, is enough. Now tilts the sketchbook so I can see. They have painted the sunroom exactly as it is, the window catching faint moonlight, the candle flickering, and me, curled in the center, tail wrapped neatly around my paws. You're always here, they say, watching, guiding, reminding me. I blink slowly, always. The first week of December passes quietly. Snow drifts along the edges of the balcony. Now works steadily, pausing occasionally to sip tea, hum, or adjust a brushstroke. The apartment smells faintly of baked bread, paint, and pine. I patrol the sunroom, circling the heater vent, inspecting corners, and occasionally jumping to the windowsill to survey the snowy city below. There is a deep satisfaction in knowing that all is as it should be. Mid-month, the cold deepens, now begins to bake, filling the apartment with warmth and scent. I hover nearby, sniffing cautiously, waiting for a chance to taste whatever falls to the floor. They laugh at my precision, patting my head. You're too dignified to beg, aren't you? I blink slowly. Dignity is important. Now hums while kneading dough, occasionally glancing at me. You know, they say, I think the best moments aren't the big ones, not the fairs, not the commissions. It's nights like this, quiet, warm, ordinary, and shared. I purr, shared indeed. The final week of December brings reflection. Now places all of the month's canvases along the walls, stepping back to observe. They're smaller, intimate pieces, frost on a balcony railing, a cup of tea in the morning light, the shadow of a cat stretching across a rug. You know, they murmur, I used to think I needed the world to notice, but maybe it's enough that I see it, that we see it. I knead gently at their lap. Presence matters, always. The night of the 31st, snow continues to fall. The apartment glows softly with candlelight. Now sits up tea on the table, picks up a brush, and begins a small, spontaneous painting, one that will never be sold, never shown. Just for them, just for me, just for this quiet winter moment. I curl into their lap, purring, tail draped around both of us. Outside, the city is silent, blanketed in white. The year ends. The world holds its breath. Inside, the house hums with warmth, light, and steady hearts. I blink slowly. We are here, together, safe, complete. The snow drifts silently against the window pane. The candle flickers, the brush moves, and for a cat who has watched over a human's heart, it is enough. December quiet, reflective, full of small fires and soft snow folds into itself. A year has passed, and with it we have grown. Chapter 13. The New Year's light. The new year begins quietly. No fireworks this time, no echoes of music from the street below, just a hush that lingers between one breath and the next. Morning light spills across the floorboards, pale and unhurried, as if testing the air. I stretch from my spot near the window, claws curling against the wood, tail arcing in slow satisfaction. Now stirs beneath a blanket on the couch. They fell asleep sketching, pencil still resting loosely in their hand, page marked with faint traces of graphite and dreams. The apartment is cold enough that I can see a soft fog when I breathe. I pad across the rug, stepping lightly between candle stubs and scattered brushes, and jump up onto their chest. They blink awake, smiling the way people do when they forget for a second, that the world is heavy. "Morning, Mochi," they whisper, voice still wrapped in sleep. I settle against them, purring. The sound fills the room like the heartbeat of the house. January sunlight is thinner than it used to be, gentle, restrained, but it carries a promise. Something about the angle of it feels like possibility, like the start of a soft recovery after a long dream. Now spends most of the first week reorganizing the studio. They pull canvases from corners, stack sketchbooks neatly, and sweep paint dust from the floors. I supervise from atop the highest shelf, tail flicking in the judgment whenever they miss a spot. "You're relentless," they say with mock offense. "Who even trained you?" I blink. Myself. They laugh, the sound echoing easily, the laugh of someone who's learned to live with both silence and noise. The heater clicks on with a sigh. Outside, the sky is pale blue, washed clean by the cold. I sit on the windowsill, watching the faint steam rise from rooftops. There's still snow in the gutters, but it's thinning, softening around the edges. Now joins me with a mug of coffee, hair mussed, sweater sleeves pulled over their hands. They take a slow sip and watch the same view I do, the quiet city, the smoke, the slush, the sky trying to remember warmth. "I used to hate this time of year," they say softly. "Everything feels like it's holding its breath, like the world's afraid to start again." I nudge their wrist with my nose. The start always feels small. That's how it's meant to. They smile. Yeah, maybe that's okay. Later they set up a new canvas, large, blank, expectant. I watch as they stand before it, brush in hand, uncertain for a long moment. Then they take a slow breath and make the first mark. The sound of bristles on canvas is gentle, rhythmic. I recognize the look in their eyes, not ambition, not desperation, but something humbler and deeper, its presence, its care. Hours pass. The light shifts across the room. I nap, wake, watch again. The painting grows layers of color like morning fog, faint outlines of rooftops, a thin line of gold where sunlight breaks through the clouds. Now steps back, brush still raised. "It's not done," they murmur, "but I think it's honest." Honesty is art. I yawn, content. Evenings are slower now. Now cooks more often, humming along to songs from an old playlist. They talk to me while they chop vegetables, filling the space with warmth and the quiet rhythm of domestic peace. "You've been with me through everything, haven't you?" they say one night, looking down as I weave between their legs. The worst days, the silent ones, the ones where I thought I'd forgotten how to make anything beautiful. I pause, tail flicking. I was never going to let them forget. They crouch down, resting a hand on my head. "You're a strange little teacher, Mochi." I blink. That is true, but I'm an effective one. Midway through the month, the snow melts enough for them to open the balcony door. Cold air rushes in, sharp but clean. I step outside, pause, pressing into the damp boards. The air smells new like rust, wet stone, and the faintest trace of green. Now leans on the railing, scarf wrapped around their neck. "Smells like change," they say. I blink up at them. Change is constant, but this one feels different. They smile down at me. "You're right, maybe this time it's good." The city hums faintly below, not rushing yet, but stirring. The world, after all, is waking up again. The next morning Now receives an email. They read it silently, eyebrows furrowing, then softening. "It's from the gallery," they say aloud. "They want to feature my winter series next month." They look at me, uncertain. Should I? It's small, but I tilt my head. Do it. Now exhales. Yeah, maybe I will. Not because I need to prove anything, just because it feels right. They sit down at the table, opening their sketchbook, jotting notes, humming. The energy in the room shifts, not the frenzied kind from last spring, but steady, centered, like the quiet pulse beneath snowmelt. That night, I find them painting again, but slower. They pause often, sipping tea, adjusting the lamp. I jump onto the table and watch. They're painting the balcony view, rooftops dusted in snow, the faint line of morning light, and near the bottom corner, a small grey cat curled in the window. Me. Don't move, they whisper. You're part of this one. I hold still, regal. The brush moves delicately, tracing the shape of my back, the curve of my tail. I can hear their breath steadying with each stroke. The painting glows softly in lamplight. When they finish, they lean back. There, that's it. It is simple, quiet, beautiful. Days pass. The apartment smells of drying paint and tea leaves. The snow outside shrinks to thin sheets of ice, cracked and shining like glass in the morning sun. Now hangs the finished painting in the sunroom, not to sell, just to keep. It catches the light perfectly, every morning. Sometimes I catch them looking at it, eyes distant but peaceful. They talk to me while they water the plants, soft voice carrying through the room. You know, Mochi, I used to think companionship had to be loud. People everywhere, messages, noise. But maybe love is the opposite. Maybe it's the quiet that lets you breathe. I curl up on the rug, tail flicking once, quiet as the truest kind. Toward the end of January, the days stretch a little longer. Sunlight lingers in the windows. Just a few minutes more each afternoon. I notice the way Nowls stand straighter now, how they hum, without realizing it, how they open the curtains earlier. One morning, they surprise me by bringing home a small plant, a pale green sprig in a ceramic pot. A friend, they say with a grin, for both of us. I sniff it suspiciously, then sneeze. Now laughs. We'll work on that. The plant sits on the windowsill beside my spot. Every day I nap next to it. It leans toward the light. So do I. As the month closes, Now starts writing again, not lists this time, but reflections. Little notes tucked into the edges of their sketchbooks. Sometimes I see my name written in the margins. Mochi watched the snow with me today. Mochi decided the world was safe enough for a nap. Mochi knows things I don't. I do, yes, but so do they now. The night before February begins, we sit together in the sunroom. The city hums faintly beyond the glass, and snow falls in slow spirals under the streetlights. Now strokes my fur and says softly, "You saved me." I blink. No, I simply stayed. And that, I think, is the same thing. Morning again, a new month waiting at the threshold. I wake first, stretching, watching light crawl across the floor. Now sleeps peacefully, arms tucked around a pillow, breathing even. I walk to the window, paw pressing against the glass. The world outside glows soft gold spilling over the rooftops, the snow catching fire in the dawn. I look back at Now, then at the small plant, the candles, the brushes, the year's painting stacked neatly against the wall. The house hums with warmth, faint but alive. My whiskers twitch. Everything is in its place. Everything has changed. Final entry in the housecat almanac. January, the New Year's light. Some years end quietly with a sigh and a soft blink. Others begin like this, in warmth, in patience, in stillness shared. The art continues. The laughter hums. And I, Mochi, remain the quiet witness, burrowing forever in the light.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay safe.